Okay, so this time let's address the question of how many calories should I be eating to lose fat as quickly as possible and not muscle? And let's start here with a quick primer on why calories matter, because these days it's kind of trendy to say that calories don't matter if you just know how to eat the right foods or set your macros up properly and so forth. That calories in versus calories out is an antiquated model, and that more recent science is proving that if you just eat the right foods and you'll change your hormones, then it won't matter how many calories you eat, blah, blah, blah. No, it's all bullshit. While it's true that the calories provided by Skittles are different, they do different things in the body than the calories provided by chicken breast, and this is especially true if we're looking at body composition. It's also true that the primary determinant of body weight is energy balance and nothing else. It is the amount of energy that we're eating, or the relationship between the amount of energy that we're eating versus expending. That alone will determine what happens with our body weight. So in that sense, a calorie is very much a calorie. If we are consistently eating fewer calories or less energy than we're burning, our body weight will go down over time, because our bodies are going to have to get that energy from somewhere. It's missing out. Let's say we are eating 400 calories fewer than we're burning. So this is real energy. A calorie is not just some abstract thing. It represents real energy that we are providing our bodies, and our bodies are burning real energy. So if there's a deficit there, if we're burning more energy than we're eating, our bodies have to get that energy from somewhere, or our cells would just stop working. Everything would shut down. It needs energy. Where does it get that energy from? Primarily from fat stores. That's the first place it goes for energy. If it's not getting enough from the food, or if it simply has finished processing a meal, so there's no food energy available, it turns to fat stores. So when you maintain that deficit, what happens? Over time, your fat stores dwindle down. Think of it like a savings account. If you have to regularly dip into your savings account to pay your bills because your income isn't high enough, your savings account dwindles. Same thing with your fat stores. They get smaller and smaller over time. Now, can you lose weight without counting calories? Sure, you could reduce your meal frequency, like with intermittent fasting. You could restrict certain food groups. You could portion your meals out according to certain guidelines. But don't forget that the only reason why any of those strategies can work is because they simply promote an energy deficit. They make it easier to eat fewer calories than you're burning. And if you don't get that right, then none of those other things matter. If you are not eating significantly fewer, and by significantly fewer, I mean anywhere from 10 to 25% fewer calories than you're burning every day, it doesn't matter what you do with your meal frequency. It doesn't matter what you do with your food choices. It doesn't matter how you combine foods. It doesn't matter when you eat them. None of those things matter. You will not lose weight and you will not lose fat effectively without that energy deficit. Now, I mentioned earlier that calories in versus calories out is a good starting point, and it is a fundamental aspect to dieting, but it's not everything. The calories from the Skittles are not the same as the calories from the chicken breast. And the reason why that is true is because while many people say they want to lose weight, really what they mean is they want to lose fat and not muscle. Those are two very different things. So if someone were truly just to want to lose weight, if they were to say, I just want to see that scale number go down and I really don't care whether I lose fat or muscle, then they actually wouldn't need anything other than just calories in, calories out. All they'd have to do is make sure that they are eating significantly fewer calories than they're burning every day, regardless of where those calories come from, and that number would go down. Now, unfortunately, they would probably lose a fair amount of muscle in the process, and especially if they did a bunch of cardio, which many people that don't really know what they're doing with their diets also tend to do when they want to lose weight, because that's just simply the mainstream advice, which is basically starve yourself and do a bunch of cardio. So the problem is you burn away quite a bit of muscle and you reach a lower body weight, but you look in the mirror and you're like, wow, I look like shit. I look skinny fat. So really what we want to do is we want to lose fat and not muscle. That's key. And to do that, now you have to go beyond calories in and calories out, because now where those calories come from matter. And the first thing you have to know is that in that context, protein is king. The calories from protein are more important than the calories you get from carbs and fats. And there are several reasons for this, but the main ones are simply that research shows that high protein diet is best for both losing fat, so you tend to lose fat faster on a high protein diet, and preserving muscle. And it also generally increases satiety, so you generally feel fuller on a high protein diet, which makes it easier to stick to your diet. And the second thing you should know when you are wanting to lose fat and not muscle is that carbs are not your enemy, unless you are very overweight and very sedentary. But if that's not you, then carbs are actually your friend, because research shows that high carb diets are far better for preserving muscle than low carb diets, and they're just as good for losing fat when protein intake is matched. Meaning that so long as you eat enough protein, you are not going to lose fat faster with a low carb diet. You may lose weight faster, at least at first, because a low carb diet is going to flush water out of your body. So you're going to get that initial hooray of rapid weight loss, but it's not rapid fat loss. And when you stretch it out over time, multiple studies have shown that total fat loss is the same between high carb and low carb dieters, so long as you're eating enough protein. Okay, so how many calories should you be eating if you want to lose fat and not muscle? So obviously you know now that if you're going to eat fewer calories than you're burning, you have to first determine with approximate accuracy how many calories you're burning every day. And there are several ways to do this. I think the easiest and most practical one is to first determine approximately what your basal metabolic rate is, which is simply the amount of energy that your body burns at rest. So if you weren't even to move a finger, how much energy does it take to stay alive? And then account for your physical activity level and the energy that it takes to digest and absorb the food you eat, which is called the thermic effect of food. You've probably heard of that before. Now, in terms of determining your basal metabolic rate, there are several equations out there that you can use. I like the Catch-McCardle because it takes into account your body composition. And if you want to just make it simple, click on the link in the description and you'll be taken to an article that I wrote on this subject. And if you scroll down a little bit, you will find a calculator that will just do it for you. So once you have your BMR, and also just for the sake of comparison, in case you're wondering, I'm 6'2", I'm 195 pounds, I'm about 8 or 9% body fat, and my BMR is about 2,100 calories. But anyways, you have your BMR, and then what you can do is you can multiply it by a number that represents the activity level. So the Catch-McCardle comes with pre-made activity multipliers that I've found, in my experience working with thousands and thousands of people, to be a bit high. I feel like these multipliers tend to overshoot people's actual total daily energy expenditures, or TDE. That's what we're getting at here. So I've kind of come up with my own multipliers that are a bit lower and that work like this. If you are sedentary, then I recommend, so if you do very little exercise, very little physical activity, then I recommend you multiply your BMR by 1.1 to get your approximate total daily energy expenditure. If you are lightly active, so if you lightly exercise or engage in light physical activity 1 to 3 days per week, then I recommend you multiply it by 1.2. If you are moderately active, so if you do moderately intense exercise or moderately intense physical activity of any kind, 3 to 5 days per week, then I recommend you multiply by 1.35. And if you're very active, so if you engage in intense exercise or sports 6 to 7 days per week, then I recommend you multiply your BMR by 1.45, maybe 1.5. And if you are super active, so if you do a lot of intense exercise and sports and for long periods of time, 6 or 7 days per week, then you may need to go as high as 1.8 or as low as 1.6 or 1.65. And if we want to simplify it even further, we can say that most people will need to eat about 10 to 12 calories per pound of body weight per day to lose fat effectively. I could have just thrown that out there and said, here, just do that. But I also wanted you to understand some of the logic behind how you actually calculate your numbers and behind that 10 to 12 calorie number that a lot of people throw around. All right, so now that you have your total daily energy expenditure, or at least a fairly accurate estimate of it, you want to eat about 75% of that number every day. So you want to be reducing your calorie intake by about 25% of that number. And that is what is going to drive your fat loss. That 25%, that energy deficit, that's where your body's going to have to go to fat stores each and every day. And so then over time, that will add up to a leaner you. And keep in mind that these are starting points and that you need to assess how your body responds and adjust accordingly, because total daily energy expenditure is a moving target. We're not going to get there with 100% accuracy regardless of how fancy we want to be. So really what we want a good starting point. We want to see how our bodies respond and then adjust. And what that really comes down to is we're looking to lose anywhere from a half a pound to 2 pounds per week. And that really depends on your starting point. So the more overweight someone is, the more fat they can lose. So I would say, let's say if a guy is 20% body fat and above, should be looking to probably lose 1.5 to 2 pounds a week. But a guy at 10% body fat should be looking to lose maybe a half a pound or at most a pound per week. And for women, I would say those numbers are probably like a woman at 30% body fat and above should be looking to lose about 1.5 to 2 pounds per week. But a woman at 20%, or when that same woman gets down to 20%, she needs to lower her expectations of fat loss because it just slows down to a half a pound to a pound a week. All right, well, that is it for calculating your calories to lose fat and not muscle. And if you want to take this a step further and you want to figure out how to break those calories down into proper macronutrients, then I will drop a link down in the description below. And for those of you that are listening outside of YouTube, then you can just go over to legionathletics.com and search for macro, and you'll see an article. I don't remember the exact title, but it has macronutrient calculator in it. Check that article out, and it will help you set everything up quickly and easily because it has a calculator in it. So that's it for this video. I hope you liked it and found it helpful. If you did, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, and I will see you next time.